You were in the living room, quietly dusting the polished mahogany table. The faint scent of lemon polish clung to the air, your movements slow and deliberate, each stroke of the cloth careful enough to avoid leaving a single streak. From the corner of your eye, you noticed Jungkook emerged from his room. His tall, imposing frame moved with a calm dominance, the kind of presence that commanded a room without a single word. His gaze slid past you as if you were part of the furniture. He lowered himself onto the couch, leaning back with an air of ownership. Reaching for the glass on the side table, he took a slow sip of water, the sound of ice shifting inside the glass echoing faintly in the quiet space. You kept testing, but the air suddenly felt thick. A familiar pressure coiled in your chest, your breath growing shallow, panic. It came without warning, clamping down on your lungs. The duster slipped from your trembling hand and landed softly on the carpet. Your eyes gave way and you sank to the floor. A faint whimper left your lips as you clutched at your chest, trying to will the tiredness away. Jungkook's eyes flickered toward you, his expression hard and detached. What is this now? Your voice was shaky, barely audible. I just need a moment. He scoffed, leaning back with a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes. Pathetic, if you want my attention, there are less pitiful ways to beg for it. You swallowed hard, forcing yourself to stay silent, knowing any protest would be useless. Chunguk set the half full glass back on the table with a soft touch. Clean up when you are done laying there. Without another glance, he stood, his steps unhurried, and disappeared back into his room. The door shut behind him with a dull click that seemed to echo in the empty living room. Your eyes blurred with tears, not from his words, which had long since lost the power to surprise you, but from the raw, suffocating pressure in your chest. You stayed on the floor for a moment before slowly crawling toward the table. With trembling fingers, he took the glass he had left behind. You sipped the water twice, small, careful gulps. The rest you poured over your face, the gold liquid startling your senses, making you gasp. You stayed there, your palms pressed to the cool floor, the water dripping down your cheeks and neck. After several long minutes, your breathing eased. You sat back, exhaling slowly before pushing yourself to your feet. Your body felt heavy, but your movements returned to their usual quiet efficiency. This was your life now. You had been married to Jungkook for a year, an arrangement born out of depth and coercion. Your stepmother, cruel and unpredictable, had taken a massive loan from the city's most feared mafia leader. When she couldn't repay it, she offered you instead. Jungkook had agreed, not out of affection, but because he wanted a wife to serve his needs, someone to warm his bed when he felt like it, and keep his home in order. He had never pretended otherwise. Your childhood had been no kinder. Your father's death had left you vulnerable, and your stepmother had filled the void with drunken wakes and heavy hands. Panic attacks had become your silent companies, your only comfort found in moments of solitude. You had learned never to expect care from anyone. Still, his orders were to be obeyed. Smoothing your skirt, you made your way to his room, pausing at the doorway before knocking lightly. What would you like for dinner, Jungkook? His voice was curt. Why? Are you planning to poison me? You lowered your gaze, your tone calm. No, I just need to know what to prepare. The door opened slightly, revealing his sharp, unreadable eyes. Make something edible. You are not here to ask questions, just do what you are told. You nodded, quietly accepting his answer. Yes, Jungkook. You were about to step away from his door when something caught your eye. Jungkook was standing just inside the room, one hand braced usually on the edge of his desk. In his other hand, he held a white tissue near his mouth, a tissue streaked with vivid crimson. Your breath hitched. His gaze lifted to yours, sharp and yielding. It's nothing, you go. His tone left no room for questioning. You hesitated for a moment, but then gave a small nod and turned away, forcing your feet to carry you toward the kitchen. You didn't dare disobey, not openly. You busied yourself preparing dinner, the familiar rhythm of chopping vegetables and stirring the pot, feeling to quiet the unease curling in your chest. When the meal was ready, you placed the dishes neatly on the table. He ate in silence, his eyes fixed on his plate, not a word exchanged between you. The clink of cutlery against porcelain was the only sound in the room. After finishing, he stood, grabbed his coat, and headed toward the door. I'll be out for a while, don't wear up. He didn't offer an explanation, but you knew it was one of his missions. The kind that left his knuckles raw and his clothes smelling faintly of gunpowder. The door closed behind him and the house fell into a heavy stillness. But your mind wasn't still. It kept returning to that image, red staining the white tissue. Why? Against every warning you had ever been given, you found yourself walking toward his bedroom. He had always forbidden you from entering without his permission, but tonight, curiosity gnawed at you too sharply to ignore. The room was neat in the cold, minimal way he liked it. Sharp lines, not a thing out of place. You searched quietly, your fingers brushing over the smooth surface of the desk before you began checking the drawers. The first one was locked. The second, to your surprise, slid open with ease. Inside lay a plain brown folder. You pulled it out, your brows knitting when you saw the printed label hospital file. Sitting on the edge of his bed, he opened it. The first page bore his full name, date of birth, and diagnosis. Your eyes widened. Stage 3 cardiomyopathy, urgent transplant required. Your hands tremble as you flip to the next page. A note clipped to the file bore the doctor's words and neat clinical handwriting. The patient requires a heart donor as soon as possible. Condition is deteriorating. Delay in transplant could result in fatal outcome within months. The paper slipped slightly in your grasp, the weight of the words sinking into you like ice water. He's also suffering. That's why he keeps his distance. Oh God, I didn't know. Your breath came quicker, the panic tightening your chest not from your own attack this time, but from the thought of losing him. What if he can't find a donor? What if the idea of him not existing in his world was like a knife twisting in your stomach? You press your hand over your mouth as if to hold back the soap threatening to escape. You loved him even if he didn't return that love. Only love could make pain this sharp. Wiping at your tears, you closed the file and carefully placed it back into the drawer, making sure it looked untouched. You left his room and returned to your own, closing the door quietly behind you. You lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling, but your mind refused to rest. Every image, every cold word from him, every moment you had been heard, suddenly they felt different, reframed through this new truth. Was his silence distance, or was it his way of protecting you from the inevitable? Was the coldness a wall to keep you from grieving too deeply when the time came? The thought made your chest ache. For once, your own pain seemed distant. All you could think of was him, his sharp eyes, his measured steps, the way he hid everything behind that unreadable mask. How long had he been carrying this alone? How many nights had he been fighting the weakness in his body, pretending it wasn't there? And why? Why hadn't he told you? A sigh slipped past your lips. Your tears ran slowly on your cheeks. You curled into yourself not from fear, but from the weight of wanting to protect someone who had never let you close enough to try. You barely remembered falling asleep last night. The weight of what you had read in Jungkook's medical file pressing on your heart like a stone. Morning light filtered through your curtains in pale, fragile streaks. You were still half asleep when the sharp, urgent ring of your phone shattered the quiet. You groggily reached for it. Hello. A young woman's voice came through, hurried and breathless. Is this Mrs. Joan? Something in her tone made your stomach twist. Yes, who is this? I'm a nurse at Daeon Medical Center. I found your number saved in your husband's phone. It said Wi-Fi, so I called you. Your heart skipped a beat. Why? What happened? Your husband is in the emergency ward. You need to come right now. Please hurry. Tell me. She rattled it off, and before she could say another word, you hung up. You didn't even think to change out of your nightclothes, grabbing a coat and your bag. You ran out the door, your breath coming fast and shallow. By the time you reached the hospital, your hands were trembling so violently you almost dropped your bag. The smell of antiseptic burned your nostrils, the sound of hurried footsteps and distant cries echoing down the sterile white halls. You rushed to the reception desk. Jungkook, where is he? Please tell me. The receptionist gave you a sympathetic look and stood. Follow me, ma'am. Her footsteps quickened as she led you through the maze of corridors until you reached a cluster of doctors gathered outside a room. Their expressions told you everything before they even spoke. What's happening? How is he? One of the doctors stepped forward, his voice heavy. Mrs. Jones, we have tried everything. We couldn't find a matching donor in time. His heart is feeling he has very little time left. It felt like the floor gave way beneath you. Then take mine, I'll give him my heart. The doctor blinked in shock. You do you understand what you're saying? This surgery, I don't care. Please just let me see him before you start. 2 minutes, that's all I ask. After a pause, the doctor gave a short nod and stepped aside. You slipped into the room, your chest tight. Jungkook was laying there, his skin almost as pale as the shears beneath him. The oxygen mask fogged faintly with each weak breath. The monitor beside his bed beeped steadily but slowly, too slowly. When he saw you, a faint spark lit in his tired eyes. He reached up with trembling fingers and pulled the mask away. No, please keep that on. Let me talk. His voice was hoarse, broken. I'm sorry, Wine. I kept my distance because I was diagnosed. I didn't want to feel anything for you, but I failed terribly. That day, when I accused you of pretending, it was because I wanted you not to look at me for care. Your throat tightened as tears blurred your vision. You gently placed the mask back on his face, your fingers brushing against his cheek. You don't have to explain, just rest. That's all I want from you right now. You started to turn away, but his weak grip caught your hand. His eyes, glass like and pleading, held you still. Don't leave me. You smiled through the ache in your chest, bending down to kiss the back of his hand softly, then his closed eyelids. I have to go, Jungkook, but remember, I'll always be with you. His lips trembled, and he gave a faint note, his gaze never leaving you until you stepped through the door. 2 days later, the first thing Jungkook heard upon waking was the faint hum of the hospital machines. His eyelids felt heavy, but when he finally forced them open, the harsh white light above him burned his eye. A nurse, surprised to see him awake, approached quickly. Oh, Mr. Jones, you're awake. That's wonderful. His voice came out rough. Where's my wife? Wine? The nurse froze for a moment, her smile faltering. Sir, don't you know? A knot formed in his stomach. No, what? She was the one who gave you her heart. She was the donor. Everything inside him stirred. What did you just say? She insisted, no matter the risk, she said saving you was worth it. She didn't make it through the surgery. The beeping of the monitor seemed deafening now. He stared at the nurse, unable to breathe for a moment. She gave me her heart. The nurse's voice softened almost a whisper. Before they took her into the operating room, she asked me to tell you something. She said, don't worry, I will always be with you. His breath caught in his throat. His hand instinctively pressed to his chest. The heart beating there now was hers. A single tear slipped down his cheek, then another. Her last words replayed in his head over and over, slicing him open from the inside. I will always be with you. For the first time in years, the cold, unshakable Jungkook felt completely broken. He had her heart, but had lost the only person who had truly loved him. The cemetery was silent except for the soft rustle of leaves under the night wind. A pale moon hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the rows of gravestones. Jungkook walked slowly along the narrow path, his black coat billowing slightly with each step. It had been 3 weeks since the surgery, 3 weeks since the word had gone quiet in a way he had never known before. He had not spoken much since then. The once feared mafia leader now felt like a hollow shell, carrying a heartbeat that was not his own. Finally, he stopped. There it was, her name, etched into the polished marble. Wine, Joan. The fresh flowers from the funeral had already begun to wilt. He crouched down, his gloved fingers brushing over the cold stone. I told myself I wouldn't come here at night. I told myself I would be strong, but look at me. A bitter chuckle escaped him, though it faded quickly. I used to think strength meant not needing anyone, keeping distance, controlling everything, and then you. His voice broke. He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of her heart. It's you. Every beat, it's all you now. The wind whispered through the trees, and for a moment he imagined it was her voice, gentle, forgiving. His eyes stung. I'm sorry for every cruel word, for every time I turned away when you were hurting. I thought I was protecting you by staying distant, but all I did was waste the little time we had. He sat down, a single white lily at the base of the gravestone. You said you'd always be with me, and you are. In here, he pressed his palm harder against his chest. But it's not enough. I want to hear you. I want to see you laugh. I want one more chance. A tear slipped down his cheek, landing on the cold marble. I don't know how to live without you, Wine, but I will carry you. I'll carry you every day for the rest of my life. He stayed there for a long time, speaking to her in whispers only the night could hear, the moonlight catching on the glistening trail of his tears. When he finally stood to leave, his shadow stretched long over her grave, as if even it refused to let go. He turned once more, his voice low and raw. I love you, too late, but I do. And then he walked away, her heartbeat steady in his chest, his punishment, his reminder, and the last gift she had ever given him.